Welcome to Community Close-Up. I'm your host, Sharen Skelly, and today we are talking about Beth Ezekiel's Synagogue here in Owen Sound. Our guests are Jeff Elie, and Jeff is the president of the synagogue, and Ilene, I want to get this correct, Rushefsky Charland, and she is the past president of the synagogue. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I hope I got your names correct.
You did. I can begin.
Well, we'll start first by Ilene. Okay. Now, we want to talk about Hanukkah. And I have a question, just you've probably heard this before, but we hear Hanukkah and Chanukah. Why do people say those two words? Is there some reason for that? No,
it's not Hanukkah. It's because I presume it's because it has a CH and people have difficulty making the ch sound.
Oh, okay.
It's Hanukkah. So if you take it from the Hebrew, it's a ch.
Okay.
There's no such thing as Hanukkah.
There's no such thing as Hanukkah. It's
Hanukkah.
Yeah,
all right.
It's that sound is hard for people to do who aren't used to doing it.
Oh, okay. All right. So the proper thing is Hanukkah, and it should be really spelled CH, right? Okay.
And that is one of the spellings.
All right. There you go. It's a simple answer, and now I'm educated on that. So what I would like you to start with, Ilene, for our viewers and people that have no idea about what this celebration or recognition of this festival for Jewish people is, and which starts on December 18th to the 26th this year. And it's different every year, isn't it? It's not always on the same dates.
Yes, that's
correct.
That
is because
we follow the Hebrew calendar, which is different. It has 13 months, 20, it follows the moon. Actually, it's a lunar calendar.
It's a lunar calendar.
So roughly 28 days per month.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay. So can you tell our viewers why we celebrate this?
Certainly.
I know why, but some people may have no idea why.
Sure. Hanukkah is the festival of lights, and it's celebrated as a miracle of light. The story is back a little over 2,000 years ago, the Jewish people were living in the Holy Land, but it had been taken over by the Greeks and the Syrians. And the king, the Syrian king, Antiochus, decided that everybody should pray the way the Greeks do. In other words, they shouldn't be, praying to one God. They shouldn't be studying the Bible, or what we call the Torah. They should be praying to the multiple gods like the Greeks did. And so he decreed that the Jewish people, upon penalty of death, could not practice their religion. Well, there was one family called the Maccabees who decided they weren't going along with this. A lot of others actually died. They were put to death because they refused to pray to the Greek gods. The Maccabees hid in the hills of Judea, and they fought the Greeks and they won, which is a story of they're bigger than us, but we're winning anyway. Currently, one can relate to that sort of thing. When they came back and went to the Holy Temple to light the oil, they realized they only had enough oil to last for one day. And so a group of people had to go and fetch more oil, and it was an 8-day trip, round trip, there and back to get the oil. Miraculously, that oil actually burned for the full 8 days until they came back. So there you've got the miracle and the festival of lights, and that's basically what we're celebrating. So it happens to fall out usually in December. Sometimes it starts at the end of November, but it usually falls out in December, which is, one of the darker times of the year. So Festival of Lights kind of makes sense. So we have some traditions in the family as Jews. We want to remember the fact that the candle burn for 8 days, and that's why Hanukkah is an 8-day celebration. And we light a candle every day for the 8 days. And so I'm just going to see if I can switch this. And I don't know if you can see it. There is one of my menorahs. Can you see that?
You'll have to bring your camera down a bit to show us the menorah.
Here, I'll just...
Or up. Yeah. Or you can even, can you hold it up?
Well, that's what I'm trying to do.
No, we can't see it.
No, I was hoping I could do this in reverse.
No. No, we can't. Oh, there.
There it is. Okay, so there's one menorah.
Beautiful.
That's a metal. It's a gold. There's beautiful. My little mini menorah, which actually takes birthday candles. If we can get that up.
Oh,
the little one.
I love
and
that.
And here I have the 9 old men. Oops, the 9 old men menorah, which one can see looks like this.
What is that made of?
It's like a clay. Of course, it's got candle wax all over it.
Of course, and, yes.
Yeah, because I don't clean them.
Use?
And if you noticed in all 3 menorahs, and I'll go back to the first one, I wish this was a little bit better. There is a central candle that stands up like above the others.
Yes, I see that.
And that's the one that we use to light the other candles.
Oh,
it's called the shamash. And we have, there's one of the candles. So it would go in the middle. And then when we light, we place them right to left because that's the way Hebrew is read as opposed to left to right like English.
Okay.
But we light them from left to right. So and each night we add an extra candle. So on the second night, we would have another one next to the red one. And the third night, a third one. And we keep going across to the left until we have all 8 candles. But when we light them, we take the shamash, the central candle, and we start at the left and light this way. So we start with the last one that you put in. Oh. And here is a box of Hanukkah candles. And we have a few of those. So that's one of our traditions. Another one of our traditions is because the Jewish people were forbidden to study Torah, the rabbis devised a game. And they had these little tops called dreidels. If you can see this one a little bit more. And you'll notice there are Hebrew letters.
Right.
Okay. And this is called a shin. It's the S sound. A nun, the N sound. A gimel, the G or G sound. And a hey, which is the ha, the H sound. There's another one. That one's a clay one. And so the way the children learned the letters is by playing with the top. And so they would play, for money or candy or whatever. And the translation of those letters is a great miracle happened here.
Oh.
So that tells the story of Hanukkah. And so today in the family, our children, we've got dreidels all over the house. There's a bunch there, and there's a few more here, and so on. They play with the dreidels, and they play for money or candy. And it's fun, and everybody's, excited. Another one of our traditions is eating foods that have been fried in oil as a remembrance of the oil that lasted for the 8 days. So here I have a plate of potato pancakes or latkes that I made earlier today. And we usually eat it, let's see if I can see this and have it without having it spill. We eat it with sour cream or applesauce. So I've got a little bit of that here. And they're very yummy. And all it is really is shredded potatoes and some seasonings. And you can make it with shredded carrots as well, or another vegetable. Zucchini, for example, along with the potatoes. Just gives it a different flavor. And so that's one of the foods that we eat. The other food, of course, for dessert, what dessert is fried in oil? donuts, which I don't have any here. So typically a Hanukkah meal will have jelly donuts, again, because it's been fried in oil. In Hebrew, they're called sufganiyot. And the real sufganiyot don't taste like Tim's jelly donuts, I'll tell you. They're really good. Unfortunately, we have to bring them up from Toronto. And so we do. So yeah, that's basically what we do. The other, of course, one of the traditions of Hanukkah is to give the children money, or we call it gelt.
Gelt.
And so rather than presents, the older children often get gelt or money. We also have chocolate gelt, which are just like the gold foil covered coins, except they have the Hebrew letters on them. And they play with them, they eat it, of course. And now lots of kids get presents. And I think in some ways that's obviously because Christmas, kids get presents. So we give the kids presents, but they get a present every night for 8 days, sometimes more than one, especially if, multiple families, like if I'm visiting my children and grandchildren, they might get a present from their parents and then they get another present from me. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's a real fun, joyous occasion. Lots of songs. And of course, when we go and light the candles, we do have 2 prayers that we say. And similar to the prayers that we say when we light the candles for Shabbat, which is the Sabbath on Friday night. Most people don't do a lot of decoration of their houses, for example. But it's kind of, people are starting to a little bit more just because it's fun. And I have a few decorations here. I'll see if I can show you what's in my window.
Oh, that's pretty.
Yeah, that's one of them. And then I've got a few others. There's a menorah.
Oh, yes, and a star.
Yeah, and a sign that says Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah. I'm trying to say it right.
Yeah, and I've got a few others lying around, something on the fireplace and some hanging dreidels. It's just for fun. It just kind of makes me happy. Yeah. So a little bit of decor, not a lot.
Where did the colors blue and white and is it gold or yellow come from? Those
colors, the Israeli blue and white are the colors of the Israeli flag.
So that's like I was just thinking of the association with Hanukkah. You always see blue and white and yellow. That's just where they came from. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
it's just pretty. And blue and white are traditionally used as colors for decoration and for Jewish holidays and stuff.
All right. That's where that came from. Okay.
To be honest, Hanukkah was always a very minor celebration. It's not a high holiday.
I've read that it wasn't really one of the major holidays.
It is not a major holiday. It's a minor holiday.
More celebrated as because it was. Now I may be wrong, because it was so closely associated with Christmas. Is that one of the things that,
certainly in North America? Yeah, I think that's kind of the way it's evolved. Yeah. If you're in Israel, it's not as elaborate, shall we say?
Yeah. Yes, but it's still.
It's still an important holiday in that it's recognized, in that we're thankful that we were not assimilated. We didn't give up the religion. We survived. There was a miracle, so we honor all of that.
Right.
But
it just became.
It's not commercialized as much.
That's right.
As it is in North America.
Well, it's just like Christians celebrating Christmas. It's not supposed to be the way it is either, but it's become, let's face it, Santa was never part of the equation. Blow up Santa Clauses everywhere. I don't think so, but
exactly
just the way it became too. So commercial.
So, and let's face it, especially if children are living in an area that does not have a large Jewish population, like up here, they want something to match what their friends are doing, right?
That's right. That's right. So that's what happens.
I always tell my children and grandchildren, hey, we get 8 nights. You're going to get presents for 8. And we always do. We've always given them something, often very little gifts, but we've always given them something. We light the candles every night, say the prayer first, of course, light the candles, and then the children get a gift. Sometimes it's just candy.
Yes, so, but that's the gift. That's the gift.
That's the gift that night. Yeah.
And as I mentioned prior to the show, I wrote an article about Hanukkah for the Sun-Times one year. I had a column there, and I was invited to the celebration at the synagogue that year, and it was lovely. The children were playing with the dreidels, and they had the latkes, and it was lovely. And they did the readings and the songs. I couldn't really understand the readings because I was in Hebrew, but I did my best. And everyone was really welcoming, and it was a really lovely time. And I learned a lot, and I was really happy that they were so welcoming to me. And this leads me into the next segment. I got to tour the synagogue, and it was beautiful. And there was I remember the lovely window and windows, I think. And we're going to learn now about the synagogue from Jeff Elie, who is the president of the synagogue. And so Jeff is in the synagogue right now, and he's going to tell us about the synagogue and the community that worships there. So Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us and telling us about the wonderful history there. And there is a wonderful history there.
Yes. Well, welcome to Beth Ezekiel Synagogue. This is our pride and joy. It's the center of Jewish life in Grey Bruce. And it's what we call and what we believe to be Canada's last small town synagogue. There's no other community in Canada as small as Owen Sound, anywhere near Owen Sound's size, that still has a synagogue. There used to be synagogues everywhere there was a main street. They're all closed. And the only one that remains outside of a big population center is this one here. So we're very proud of our synagogue. We welcome you here virtually. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about Hanukkah, and which is also pronounced Hanukkah with a soft H. You don't have to work up the phlegm so much. I'm going to talk about Hanukkah and how it's celebrated in Owen Sound today and for a century in the past. There's been an organized Jewish presence in Owen Sound since, I guess, around the 1890s. People started to organize themselves. There was always Jewish shopkeepers. The reason there were always Jewish shopkeepers, by the way, is because the Jews were very restricted in Eastern Europe, and this is where most of us trace our ancestry back to. And Jews weren't allowed to own land, so they became merchants and shopkeepers. So that's how Canada was settled by Jews. Everywhere there was a little town, there's a few little schmata shops, we call them, which is like rag and bone shops or scrap dealers. But here in Owen Sound, it followed a similar story. We just about a week ago, we uncovered the earliest reference to Hanukkah in Owen Sound. One of our members found an article in the Sun-Times dated November 6th, 1915. That's 107 years ago. And it talks about, did I lose my connection?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry, everything got frozen there. So, and it talks about how the Jews in Owen Sound would light the candles every night for the next 8 days, and how they would celebrate Canada or Hanukkah here in Owen Sound. So it was a very interesting article. And then, you fast forward all the way up to present day, and here we still are. By the way, the article mentioned that there were 7 Jewish families in Owen Sound at the time. And we're still in the town itself. We're still only about 7 families or so, maybe 10. Most of our members come from outlying areas. So in the 107 years that we've been celebrating Hanukkah here, it's more or less the same number of Jews. But today we have the menorah in the Festival of Northern Lights. This year I went and found it. It's across from the library. And it shows a menorah with a Jewish star in it, and that's how we participate locally. Here at the synagogue, we have a big Hanukkah party. We all bring our family menorahs with us, and we have a big communal menorah lighting downstairs. We eat latkes and the sauvignon, and we sing songs and we say prayers, and we generally celebrate Hanukkah. And that's the way people do it all over the world. But I just want to point out that there's a dark side to the Festival of Lights. And because the Festival of Lights came about because somebody wanted to kill the Jews.
That's right. That's what was
They wanted to kill us. I mean, the story of the Maccabees, we celebrated, and that's fine. I mean, I have no objection. We celebrate it as a victory. But in the process, thousands of Jews were slaughtered by the Syrians, and you know, we've lost sight of that fact. And to be honest, it's fine. I mean, let's look at the positive. Yeah. People always say, you know, why do the Jews have so many holidays? Right? We have Purim, we have Passover, we have Jewish, we have all these things. So you know, there's Purim, for instance. That's the story of ancient Persia, 300 BC. And they tried to slaughter all the Jews. But we celebrate it. We put on costumes. We do these little plays, right? There's Passover, which we observe. It's a more solemn occasion. But again, it's the enslavement of the Jews and trying to kill the Jews and trying to slaughter them out of existence. After Passover, in the fall, there's a holiday called Tisha B'Av, which commemorates the destruction of our temples in Jerusalem. One in 536 BC by the Babylonians, and the other by the Romans in 70 AD. They destroyed the temple. The only thing left of the temple there is the western wall of that temple, and that's the wall that everybody prays. Yeah. So you know, why did Jews have so many holidays? Because people have tried to kill us so many times.
Well, you know, I think we didn't discuss this. We emailed about this. Anti-Semitism is on a rise again, and so you know, the Jewish people have had conflict and persecution, and it just seems to be it's a tragedy ongoing forever, and it's still they are persecuted. And
we don't understand it. We don't understand it. What do I have in common with somebody living in Babylonian Judea 3,000 years ago? We kind of shake our heads. We don't know where this is coming from, honestly. But its prevalence, particularly in the past 5 to 6 years, has become very much in the news. We have our own, even not just in the States with the white nationalism and that, but also in Canada with the courting of Holocaust deniers and people who say that, you know, there was no such thing as the Holocaust. This is something still in living memory, albeit not very many. But we have evidence of it here right at our synagogue. We have Yahrzeit plaques that commemorate, and Yahrzeit plaques are the little memorial plaques that we light. And they commemorate whole families that were gassed and killed in the Holocaust and burned.
So how can we, as Canadians, how can we educate our children? What can we do to help the community? As a parent or a grandparent, what can I do to help with the community, with the rise of anti-Semitism? What can I do?
I can't answer that definitively because I don't understand where it comes from. But I will tell you this: I do see it at the family level. I've been exposed to it all my life, at some point or another. But I see it at the family level. People talk about the colored people or people of color and Jews and Native Canadians, and they talk about them in a certain way within their households.
That's right.
That just gets passed down from generation to generation. I'll just tell you a quick story about when I first moved to Owen Sound 35 years ago. I went to the bank to get a mortgage. And the loans officer, we were talking about mortgage rates. And he said, just off the cuff, he said, well, here's the published rate, but you can Jew us down.
Oh, I knew you were going to say something about that.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say something like that.
I kind of went, my mother, I didn't say anything. What could I say?
What did you say?
He didn't mean it as an insult. He didn't mean it.
He kind of did.
I don't know what he meant. Well, I don't know. Yeah. I honestly don't. I imagine, and I hope that I'm right, that this is just something that he learned as part of his lexicon.
He did learn it
growing up, but that he didn't make the connection, the anti-Semitic connection. I can't believe that somebody would say something like that and know what they were saying to somebody that they didn't know.
Well, he should.
Anyways, so these kinds of incidences, they happen with a lot of frequency, and nowadays there's the normalization of hate. There's the normalization, whether we don't corner the market on hate, but we do seem to be the object of it.
You've had your fair share, I would say.
Yeah.
But I would say that as a parent and a grandparent, we can start by saying, well, there's a synagogue there. Perhaps, when they have open doors or whatever, we'll go in and look at it. And we can, there are plenty of books we can start with. Like I have grandchildren, we can talk about it. And that's a way to start in our homes, and teach our children about Hanukkah.
Yeah.
And that can be part of the normal experience for our children. That's the start. It's nothing to be, it's normal to have, that's just normal.
That's the kind of thing that would help. And that's true of any racial hatred.
Yeah, that's the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if I can jump in, I was going to say, teaching the children about different holidays and different religions, not just Judaism, and empathy and acceptance of, people being a little bit different. Let's face it, Jewish people are different in the way we celebrate holidays.
That's right.
We don't celebrate this Christmas. We don't celebrate Easter. We have other holidays, so that makes us different. Sometimes, if you look at very religious Jewish people, they keep kosher.
Yeah.
So they don't eat the same foods. I think a lot of the to be honest, I think a lot of the anti-Semitism is coming from the fact that,
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Don't forget to tune in to Grey County Life on Rogers TV next week.
We have a spectacular Christmas show planned for you.
Wednesday, January 4th.
Do you think this is the right thing to do?
I think it's better than the alternative.
What are you standing around here for? Just do it.
This is a dangerous job.